G'day everybody, welcome back to another episode of Craft by Tim. Today we're going to be upgrading the forge once again, and hopefully this time we'll get to the point where we can actually burn steel. Not that I want to burn steel, just that I want to be forge welding and I want to do it easily, so being able to burn steel is good. It means that you can get hard enough. So just before I jump into this, I wanted to actually do a bit of narration for it rather than going through each step, because that generally takes too long. I'm going to try and narrate this to the best of my ability, and hopefully this turns out alright. I also just wanted to jump in and say that I was going to actually get a proper microphone for this video rather than just using the internal microphone on the camera. However, oh boy, that was a bit of fun. Yeah. But anyway, more on that later. First thing that I had to do was take this massive 20 centimeter pipe, like 200 millimeters pipe, that's 175 millimeters long, and I had to cut down it so it would actually fit into the same sort of housing that my original forge was built in. Thankfully I had the 9-inch angle grinder, which made this so much easier, but it still took a really long period of time. I also went to my old high school. My old D&T teachers were able to help me out and cut some holes in the side of it for the burners using their plasma cutter, which was a lot of fun, and I actually really want to get a plasma cutter now. To be honest, I could have probably done the entire thing with the plasma cutter. I might have gotten a nicer finish, but regardless, it worked out in the end. This is a fun little technique that I figured out. If you're trying to replicate the same thing on two different tubes, it's very difficult to get the same exact cut. However, if you wrap it in tape and then just follow the cut that you've already made, you can peel off the tape, stick it to your next one, and then use that as a template, because it's very difficult to get a proper template for the next pipe. Now, obviously you could do this with one of those hole saw jigs, but I don't happen to have a hole saw jig, nor do I have a hole saw that is 200 millimeters in diameter. Can I have more of that, please? Just like a lot more of that. None like that. More of that, please. Yeah. So this stuff is called Satanite, and I found it because of Alex Steel. Yes, I do find a lot of things because of Alex Steel. How much water do I need? This is a really interesting compound. Ceramic wool has really nasty tendencies of being a lot like fiberglass or even asbestos. It leaches fibers into the air, and you really don't want to be breathing that stuff in. They are carcinogenic, i.e. they cause cancer. It's really good to make sure that you wear a respirator at all times whilst dealing with both Satanite and the ceramic wool. The reason why we use the Satanite on top of the ceramic wool is to make sure the ceramic wool can break down and it can release those fibers into the air. So as long as you have that Satanite sealing up that ceramic wool, you'll be okay. But as soon as that Satanite breaks down and you can start to see the ceramic wool again, you gotta apply another coat and make sure that it's not going to leach those ceramic fibers into the air and cause things like silicosis and cancer. Also, I did end up figuring out how much water I needed. I just needed to Google that, and I'll leave a link in the description. And this is why we have breathing apparatus thing. Oh, also, good life hack if you want to cut down a bolt. Grab the die, thread it on, and then when you cut it down, as you're unthreading the die, it's going to re-thread that portion that you had to cut down. You don't have to worry about having those threads being all gammed up or missing. Very nice. Now comes the really fun part of having to dry out the forge. It's been about a week since I first installed the Satanite. Although you don't need to leave an entire week between putting in the Satanite and actually doing this process, the longer you leave it and in the warmer environment that it's in, the better. You don't want it to heat up too quickly because then it'll crack. You don't want to leave too much moisture in it because then it'll crack. The way that this works is that you turn it down to the lowest possible setting that you can run it on whilst it is still safe. You run it for a minute, you let it either start to steam, and when you start seeing steam, you know that the water's boiling up, so then you have to turn it off. And then you wait a few minutes for it to cool all the way back down to room temperature, and then you can do it again. You run it for another minute, and if there's steam coming off it, you turn it off, wait for it to cool back down, and then you can run it for another minute. If you manage to run it for an entire minute without steam coming up, then you can turn up the forge slightly and then run it for another minute. And basically you want to keep doing this up until the point where you can run the forge at its regular running temperature. And at that point, if you can't see any steam, then your forge is ready to be run at full temperature at all times. Oh, that's pretty well the entirety of the build. I actually ran out of gas whilst firing this thing. So this is the first time that I've actually gotten to see how well it runs. And there's probably a few little improvements that I could make. Probably reinforcing these plates on the inside, just making sure that there's a little bit more insulation there, because currently there isn't very much at all. There's like a thin coating on the metal. Either that, or maybe even scrapping them all together, cutting down on these little pieces of angle a little bit more, and then just putting in bricks. That might be a better way of going, not entirely sure yet. But as far as it goes, the forge runs pretty damn good. You just saw that get up to pretty close to forge welding temperature in about 10.5 minutes. So it's not too bad. It could probably be better. And what I might end up doing is actually cutting a brick that's the perfect size to sit inside the forge. Overall, I think it's pretty good. The only thing that I have noticed is that Once again, I am not, still not quite at the point where I'm able to burn steel. And maybe I'll upgrade it again. Maybe I'll make a 4-burner forge. That might be a little overkill. I love doing this sort of thing because every time I make a new forge, I learn more about building forges and about how gas flows and everything like that. So in doing this, it's really quite a good experience, and I'm so happy that I upgraded to 2 burners. Now, of course, I don't have to use both burners. I can turn off one and just run one. The forge itself is very close to the same size as the last one in the way of internal dimensions. I think the internal dimensions, it's slightly larger. By putting a brick in the bottom, I think I'll be doing a lot better. And of course, the reason behind having 2 burners is not only for extra heat output, you also get a massive boost in the amount of control that you have. That Bowie knife that I did a little while back, that thing would have been so much easier with a forge like this because I would be able to heat it up pretty easily with using those 2 burners. So basically, using 2 burners is going to make life a lot easier when it comes to heat treating things, especially long things. It's also going to be better for making longer things. If I want to do a long bar with a twist right in the middle, I can do that. But basically, long story short, I think this forge is going to be quite beneficial. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. But until then, remember to stay safe, happy crafting, and as always, cheers. Note to self, this quench tank is the worst thing in the world to sit on. Okay, so it's kind of late, and I was literally about to hit upload, but now I'm going to edit it some more, just throw in this clip, because I totally forgot to mention that I was going to leave naming it up to you guys, but my brother came up with a really good name. Ran and Shaw are the 2 dragons from Avatar, The Last Airbender. Not the movie was terrible, but the TV show. Wanted to call it Ran and Shaw, as in 2 dragons, 2 burners. Good name. Anyway, bye! Anyway, I'll tell you the story and then I'll see whether or not I can just slip it in somewhere. Basically, I started off by going to Camera House on the day that I flew out for Victoria, and I was like, hey, I want a microphone. Do you have this particular microphone in stock? They turned around and said, no. Try this other camera house. So I went to the other camera house. They also didn't have that particular microphone in stock, but then they were like, but you can use this lavalier microphone. This will work the exact same way. And I had a pretty damn strong feeling that smart lavs can only be used with smartphones and smart devices and all the rest of it. But they couldn't be plugged in directly into a camera. And they assured me that yes, this could be used with a camera. So I was like, that's news to me, but that's great. I'll take it. I went home, tried to film a video with it just before I left, just so I had a bit of an idea of how it was meant to work and stuff like that. I imagined it was just plug and play, and I would have been correct. However, I was also correct about it only being used for smartphones, so yeah, it didn't work for the camera, so I ended up taking it back. But of course, it's 8 o'clock at night. I can't take that back to Camera House. Camera House is already closed. So I had to then do the next best thing and take it to Camera House in Victoria. So after driving around for a bit, we finally ended up in Ballarat, and I was able to take it to a Camera House in Ballarat because this thing was inside my bag and it got a little bit squashed, I'll admit. The packaging was more or less okay, but it was squashed. The microphone itself was perfectly fine, and yeah, they turned around and they were like, I can't sell this as new. And I was like, it's under warranty. And I was assured that this would work. So that sounds like a you problem. And yeah, she disgruntledly gave me some change and I walked out. Yay, winning. Except I still don't have a microphone, so not entirely winning.